And good morning. I'm Pat Desmarais. We're News Radio 95 WXTK. Overcast morning, Cape Cod, Massachusetts, on this first day of May. We're with you every Sunday from 10 in the morning to 1 in the afternoon. And it is my pleasure to bring back a friend. He is a Barnstable Town Councilor. He's also a candidate. He's a Republican, everybody. Right out of the gate, they love your guts. Where was I? He's a candidate for State Senate, Cape Cod, and the Islands. Welcome, Jim Crocker. Jim, nice to see you this morning.
Thank you very much. Thank you for having me, Pat.
Anytime. And we are live, by the way. This is not Memorex.
Well, then Christos Aneste.
So you can phone in at 508-775-WXTK and toll-free 888-WXTK-951 and ask this candidate or any of the candidates to come on the show. And we've got a lot of them lined up for you. Between now and election days, the primary and the general election. I was just telling Jim, I was reading this morning that the guesstimate to be president of the United States of America is $1 billion to win the White House. And even there's speculation that Donald Trump maybe is going to need some help from those Republicans, even though he's been self-funded. $1 billion to win the White House. How much does it cost to run for state senator, Cape Cod and the Islands? That's not cheap either, is it?
No, Mr. Wolf in the 2010 election showed us where the money really can be spent. I think he went off somewhere in excess of $380,000, and then he had PAC money that also took him way up there. But I'm suspecting it's a $250 to $275 race.
Wow, it's a lot.
Yeah, it's a lot of money.
It's a lot of money, and a lot of people, I don't think, realize what all you candidates, Republican, Democrat, what you all go through is the money raising. Like it or not, it's an issue for you. You have to raise money.
It's a humbling experience. People really say, I'm betting on you. I believe in you. I'd love to have you be our advocate. And then they give you money, and you go, wow, I better get this job done,
That woman, that Democrat, that Margot Weber, she's running for state rep in Barnstable.
Yes,
Weisenheimer.
nice
she was here. She's a terrific lady.
Yeah, nice gal.
She was. I was yanking her a little. She yanked me right back on the air. She asked me for money. I loved it. I'm like, so you're going to write a check out to me? I love that. I thought that was pretty terrific.
Good campaign manager. Tell us.
Yeah, get some money out of Patrick. Jim is actually here, everybody, serving two roles. One, of course, is his candidacy for Cape and Islands State Senate. And I'm sure we'll have Jim back, I hope, many times. He does have a Republican opponent, Tony Schiavi. I got more feedback. I saw you and Tony at the Barnstable High School for that fire house vote, which, congratulations, they got the money. And you and Tony were chatting, and you agreed to let me take a picture of the two of you. I put that on Facebook. I had more positive people. They loved that. They thought it was great that you two were cordial and friendly enough to pose for a picture and you were chatting.
Yeah, I mean, I'm very comfortable in his presence. We're very honest people. We look at each other. We talk honestly. Eric Steinhalber, who I ran against in 2010, he and I are very friendly still, too. So it's not difficult. You're just supposed to be out there pitching your wares and see if they want you to be the office holder.
You do have a Republican opponent, though, that you have to get past before you go into a general election. And I heard a radio ad of yours, and I thought it was a very good radio ad. I thought you were very much the gentleman, in so much as what I heard, Jim, was you delicately just pointing out that Jim Crocker, local guy, a lot of boards you serve on, a lot of committees you've gone to, and you point out in the radio ad, it's important. You gotta, you can't just talk. You gotta walk that talk too. Tony Schiavi, although he's a very distinguished man,
without question.
Ashland, though, even though he and his wife do own a property here on the Cape, so he couldn't possibly have done any of that stuff that you are saying that you have done. Am I correct in interpreting that was a polite, delicate, I'm just pointing out Jim Crocker has done all this stuff locally?
Yes, well, you certainly, anytime you go out and expose yourself to a race like this and you have competition, you're always obligated to make sure they understand what it is you stand for and where your values are and how you intend to serve and how you will continue to serve. I have a long history of service. My family has a long history of service, and I think it's important that I get that message out.
hard question.
Sure.
Do you feel that Jim Crocker knows Cape Cod and the islands better than Tony Schiavone?
I think my time spent on Cape Cod and the islands suggests to me that I have a better understanding of the internal workings of Cape Cod and the islands than Tony Schiavone, yes. Right. Yes, I do.
I find that Cape Cod, it reminds me when I worked in New York, there's New York State and then there's New York City, and people think it's all the same thing.
No.
It's not the same. They're like two different countries, for crying out loud. I find kind of the same thing with Cape Cod and the islands. Martha's Vineyard and Nantucket literally are, but figuratively as well. They're islands. They've got their own kind of stuff. I've been a little disappointed in some of the candidates who are running for some races out there. They don't seem to have a lot to say about the islands. What's your general feeling about Martha's Vineyard and Nantucket? What do they need for representation?
Well, I certainly feel there are a number of people on those islands that could have the same position against me that I'm suggesting against Tony Schiavone, and that they have the time and energy put on those islands that I can't possibly match. But what we have, when you have an internal workings of the largest town in the district, you have an understanding of the most problems that can occur, and then that allows you to go out and look at these towns and understand their difficult choices around town meeting and around management.
Is there anything, I know I saw on your Facebook page, and you have a great, if folks want to find out more about you, if they go to your Facebook page.
Thank you.
I thought you have a real good setup there. I know you went out to, I think it was the Vineyard.
Both.
And Nantucket. Yeah. Are the locals saying anything to you in particular that jumps off the page?
Well, there's no question that it's always about their economy. I call it a coastal economy, where they're looking for the second homeowner, they're looking for vacationers, and they're looking for the beach amenity to maintain itself. And we are being staggered on every coastline of their two islands and in the entire 596 miles on Cape Cod with coastal erosion and coastal problems. So we have a big issue, and unfortunately, the state isn't alert to the problems we have, and they don't have the flexibility to assist us the way they should.
So the coastline's eroding?
Yes. I had some pictures on my Facebook where I actually saw utilities from the road breaking off, the sub-layer of the roads, and the utilities were exposed. I was horrified by what it must mean to that community.
The fellow that has the job right now, State Senator Dan Wolf, is backing legislation. Charlie Baker does not support this legislation that would start to tax rental property.
Yes.
It would greatly affect, as the governor pointed out to me, the islands and Cape Cod. It would definitely have an effect. What was your take on that?
Well, when I was the president of the Cape and Island Board of Realtors in 2005 and 2006, I spoke, this is how long ago they tried to make this movement on this tax. I spoke at great length against it then, and just recently at a selectmen's conference I had.
So if you were our state senator, you would not support this legislation?
I will not support it in any way, shape, or form. What has to happen is we have legacy people coming to Cape Cod for the coastal economy to be repeat customers and either rentals and or buying second homes, and we need to support them and their feelings, their strong feelings of the Cape and Islands.
When I talk to some of the Democratic folks in your race, both Julian Sear and Ben DeRuyter, who's not in it anymore, but both of the fellas pointed it out to me, and I can't remember with Sheila, but they clearly are of the opposite thought on this, and they point out, generally speaking, what it is the revenue source, and that other states, in fact, are doing it. I know that one of your favorite topics, at least I hear, is the state income tax and how you're sort of disturbed with the state and the way they drag their feet in lowering it back down to 5%. Is there not a point, though, that the Democrats in your race are making that, it's an income source? And if we had more income, then it makes it easier, frankly, to reduce the burden on the state taxpayer?
Well, if you have credibility with your constituent base, that you've done everything you can at the State House to cut the expenses and the frivolous expenditures we see in a number of the programs, then you can go back and tell them why you need more money for specific items. I'm all about finding the money that's there first and poorly managed, and then we'll talk about whether or not we're intact and we have enough money to work all our programs.
On the vein of tourism, there was a few weeks back, I know I put it up on my Facebook page, it was on the CBS Evening News, a private pilot shot a lot of footage of basking seals on the southern tier of Monomoy. It wasn't just a few of them.
Yeah.
It was thousands of these things, and I think we all knew it, but we needed a visual, and CBS News network newscast was more than happy to put out there that the great white shark population in Cape Cod waters has more than doubled in the last year. Thank you, Bureau of Tourism. I must have just absolutely loved that. I talked to a lot of politicians. The governor and I had a lengthy discussion about it one day. And he said it's on their radar screen. They're cognizant that there is an issue. You got people and sharks in the water. It's an issue. Is it an issue? And is it in your mind, Jim? And is it something that is it an accident waiting to happen?
I don't believe it's an accident waiting to happen. It's an issue that needs monitoring. There is a little economy that's come out of the shark watchers, people coming to the Cape to see the sharks. There were shark
taking
T-shirts,
tours.
there were all kinds of stuff. But truth be known, we can't affect an entire coastal economy based on our leniency to one particular predator, one particular feeding source.
Would you want to be in the water with them, with a great white shark?
Not without a cage.
Well, there you go. So
I might not mind the cage thing, though. I got a little thrill in me, so who knows?
Here's my concern, though, Jim.
Yes.
And we've gotten lucky so far the last couple of summers, and then the summer, 2 or 3 summers ago, some fellow, I think from New Hampshire, he got bit. And that was the extent of it. The shark bit him. My fear is, though, one of these days, some little kid is going to be swimming off one of our beaches, and God forbid a tragedy happens, and one of these animals, I mean, they're sharks. They do what sharks do, and somebody gets a leg bit off or something, and, of course, this will make national news. This will be a big deal. Not to mention our responsibility for the safety of people who are in our waters. But it does have the potential to affect tourism. I know that some of the fellows are making some scratch running tours out to Monomoy to see a great white shark. I'm aware of it. But that really pales in comparison to the overall tourism dollar that we get. And I'm just pointing that out, that I hope that it doesn't take a tragedy before we really say, hey, we need to do something with the seal population. That's the issue here.
Yeah, no, your interests and your points are well taken, and I know the towns are concerned about it. When you say we've had luck, we've also had some pretty good town management regarding park and rec and procedures that are in place when we get notices.
Yeah, I'll move on from this, but I just say, what some of the towns are doing is they've got, the smartphone, the cell phone, and they want to get an app that tells you when there's a shark in the water. And I'm thinking, I don't know. Do I want a vacation? Do I really want to do this? I mean, I can appreciate that the towns are trying, but it's like, okay, let's go to Cape Cod for a nice, beautiful vacation with the kids. Oh, yeah, I've got my shark app here. Ah, yes, there are 20 of the things in the water. We'll move down the beach a ways.
We're talking about new tools. We're paying attention. That's a positive, I'm sure.
Jim Crocker is... That's a fair point. Jim Crocker is with us. He's a candidate for State Senate Cape and Islands. He's also a Barnstable Town councilor. He's also, when we come back, he's on, and I find great fascination with this. I watch what you people do. He's on the Town Manager Search Committee.
Oh.
Yeah. There's a committee for you. I'm going to make a reality TV show out of that committee. All right, we're going to take a... it'll be fine. Don't worry.
No, I'm happy to go with
okay.
I'll be there.
We'll take a break. We'll be back. Pat Desmarais here at your service on News Radio 95 WXTK.